Crescent City Steakhouse, a true neighborhood restaurant operated by the Vojkovic family since 1934. It is the oldest steakhouse in the city of New Orleans. Serving only hand-cut, prime-aged, corn-fed beef for over 80 years, Crescent City Steakhouse has become a dining destination for both die-hard locals and adventurous travelers who seek traditional, timeless New Orleans cuisine. Crescent City Steakhouse, 1001 North Broad, on the corner of St. Philip, in the heart of New Orleans.
Hey, don't forget my pimento cheese.
Of course.
It's okay, I'll take it from here.
Hey, you forgot your receipt!
For the love of palmetto cheese.
Good evening and welcome to Primetime Sports. And yes, it is that time of year. You know it. It's hot outside, but it's still football season right around the corner. The Saints just played preseason, and we're going to have a lot of Tulane and LSU quarterbacks coming up. But the Saints, let's start there. The preseason game against the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, and boy, did they look impressive in the beginning of the game. That's right. There's Patrick Mahomes, but the quarterback, Derek Carr, he came out of the gate. First pass was incomplete. He went 6 of 7, and after that, 70 yards led them to a touchdown drive, and then they sat him to give him some rest and don't want to get injury. So they bring in Jameis Winston, who played the rest of the first half and looked very good. Also leading a touchdown drive. He was 11 of 13 for 92 yards and a touchdown. And then Jake Haener, the rookie, played the second half. This guy looked a little bit like a rookie at times, but man, he has poise and moxie. This guy's going to be good. 10 of 17, 105 yards, and led them to a touchdown. That would have been a go-ahead if they made the two-point conversion, but he did that with a minute and a half to go. They got an interception from Kyle Phillips that gave them the ball in the 20 with a minute to go. They milked the clock and kicked the game-winning field goal. A 12-year-old made the field goal. That's right, Blake Grupe. He looks like he's 12, 5'7", 145 pounds, soaking wet, but he kicked the field goal, and he was mistaken by security as just a fan running on the field. That's how young he looks. And by the way, we're going to have a lot of Tulane and LSU quarterbacks in the next few weeks. It starts today with two legends, Roch, Hontas, and my man, Terrence Jones, 70s and 80s. These guys will talk a lot about how great they were. And Molly Kimball's going to talk all about, she's a dietitian with Oshner. Eat Fit Nola is all about her. She's coming on too. I cannot wait for this segment. Also, Drew Brees. You heard him interviewed if you watched the game on TV during the entire third quarter. He talked about his pickleball tournament, and it was phenomenal. Big success over there at the down there by the river. And he played McEnroe, lost in singles, but he beat him in doubles. Drew Brees is an athlete. You know he's going to be good. AP poll, LSU's 5th in the country. That just came out. Tulane is 24th. First time they're ranked in the AP poll. They're 17th in the coaches poll, though. And speaking of Tulane, how about the Tulane basketball team? They represented the United States, that's right, in China, and got the bronze medal. Congratulations to Ron Hunter and his guys. 5-1 record. And also, Team USA, Brandon Ingram with FIBA is going to be playing on the precursor to the Olympic team. They start Saturday against New Zealand, and then they play against Greece on Monday. And also, De La Salle Summer Alumni Party. It's a big one. Get out there. It's going to be a blast Saturday from 7 to 10. This is a big, big deal. You don't have to be a graduate of De La Salle to go. They got people from all schools. It is a fun party. Trust me. Check it out. August 19th at 7. Hey, we got a big show for you. Primetime Sports is coming up next right here.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
Hey, good evening. Welcome back to Primetime Sports. I am so excited about this show. Like I said in the open, we have two Tulane legends, and you better ask somebody over 45 or 55 because they know if they follow Tulane football, these are two of the best quarterbacks they've had in Tulane Green Wave history. We're going to start off with Terrence Jones from the mid-'80s. He played from 1985 to 1988. He was a Lutcher guy. Lutcher, is that right?
Yes, sir.
I'm about to say, I hope that was right. But bottom line is this. The man almost accounted for 10,000 yards in an era that they weren't throwing the ball a whole lot. 7,500 yards passing, another 1,700, 1,800 rushing, and he had literally 60-something touchdowns when you combine it all. Actually, 70-something touchdowns when I think about it. I think it was 46 touchdown passes, another 24 rushing. He even caught one receiving. I don't know how you do that, but here he is, Terrence Jones, for his second visit to Primetime Sports.
Appreciate you.
How you been, man?
Been well.
I love it because I get to see you guys around. I'm in New Orleans now, and you and Roch are at these Tulane functions, and I've been fortunate enough to go to some of them, including when Tulane head coach Willie Fritz got the Bobby Dodd Award.
That's awesome. That was awesome.
As a Tulane quarterback, when you see these kind of accolades, that's the Coach of the Year, and that includes a bunch of things. The Bobby Dodd is not just what's on the field, what goes on off the field as well. And we all know what a great year Fritz had. But isn't it cool to get back with your former teammates and hang out and do things like that?
Well, I think what it does is bring back memories for not only you as a former player, a student athlete on campus, reconnected with former players that you either grew up with and played with, and to see how it has transformed up until now. Yeah, it's just such a great feeling to know that you were part of that in some kind of way, and seeing guys today, as we all of us are getting up in age. Sure. But at the same time, it's a good thing to reminisce again.
See some pictures there with your buddy Mike Arata. He's been a big boon for the Tulane NIL. I was at a function the other night. Got to see Roch was sitting across the table from me. You had Tommy Hightower, another quarterback that came in his era. But, I mean, I just think about your era. I was in college at that time, and I just remember that connection with Mark Zeno. Just phenomenal. Another guy that's in the Hall of Fame. You guys are all Hall of Famers. And to see you guys now and then, and I saw him, I remember seeing him like years later when I was at a basketball tournament somewhere. And he didn't know me from Adam, but I'm like, Mark Zeno? Right, and he's like, and this is one of the great players, and you guys had such a great connection. I mean, talk about that connection, because that's one that it goes down in the record books.
Well, actually, Mark and I, we were from the same hometown. He's actually from Gramercy, which is walking distance from Lutcher. Sure, Gramercy. We went to the same high school, Lutcher High School, and so we played a few years together at Lutcher before he left and came to Tulane. Yeah. Then I followed, and as Roch would know, when you have this instinctual feeling with the receiver, some of those plays that were drawn up, you threw them out the window because this instinct kicks in, and so we was able to reconnect, on the field naturally. And I think that's something you can't coach; it's just inherited. Sure. But it's a good thing overall from a team perspective when you're able to have that type of connection during the game.
Y'all, do you take pride in, like, when you see the quarterbacks since you, some of them have some success? Like, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, Sean King. I think that's Zeno right there, isn't it? Sean King, goes to and plays for the Tampa Bay Bucks, and he led Tulane that 12-0 season. He had a couple first rounders. I remember J.P. Lossman was in there, Patrick Ramsey, maybe more. The Saints had one of your quarterbacks for a while. They went to play at Tampa Bay, and then now you see what's going on with Michael Pratt, and he looks like he might have a future NFL career. But what kind of pride as a family, particularly in the quarterback family at Tulane, do y'all have?
Well, I think for me personally, I'm excited about that lineage of how, particularly that position, and I always see when I see Roch and Nicky, Roch and Nick always give them homage because they literally started out, and Terry Bond as well, and the other guys. But it is a sense of pride when you see the success guys have throughout their careers, and even currently now with the guy we have. And I tell you, it's something that is morphed into a position where each time the bar has been raised. And I tell you, Pratt is doing a phenomenal job with over his career at Tulane, and we've all followed him. We see his maturity; he's grown both on and off the field, and I think he will be another one to continue to raise the bar at that position. As I mentioned earlier, I pay homage to all the guys before me, and it's great to have gone through that experience at Tulane. and to have played that position.
Sure. I'm going to say this. You played every single game your college career. You started at quarterback. I know the last 3 years. I mean, you put up some great numbers. And, you know, you wanted to get on the field in the beginning. And who was quarterbacking when you first got there? Because you played in every game. I'm not sure of positions. I saw a receiving touchdown in there, so you got on the field there. You had some rushing touchdowns as well. But talk about that first year and then how you became a quarterback, and when did that eventually happen full-time?
Well, my freshman year, I got there. Mac Brown was our head coach, and Ken Karcher was the senior. Ken
Karcher. Wow, I hadn't heard that name in a long time.
He was the senior, and we hadn't won a game at this point during the season. And I just, you know, one Sunday in the dorm, I said, look, just put me on the field. I want to play. I want to get hit. Right? I want to get a field.
Mac came to your dorm room?
No, actually, I called them.
I'm about to say,
Sundays,
in the dorm.
Sundays we have team meetings, and I told them, look, guys, I just want to play. Put me on the field, any position, and it happened to be running back. And but the agreement was, it wasn't that. It was just temporary. We understood that. I understood it, and so I played a few games at running back. And but having that experience on the field my freshman year was so important for me to understand the speed of the game on the next level and the talent. There's a lot of parity, you know, when you get to the next level, and so that was important for me. And so then he graduated, and I was next up at the quarterback position, and we were successful as a team. Me playing at the quarterback position, we had some great offensive players surrounded me.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted a person that should take 10 others. The quarterback always get the glory, but we also get the blame when it doesn't go well. But there's other 10 that enabled me to put up the numbers that I was able to put up.
I mean, I remember, I've just thought about this, and it hit me for the first time, because I've had Lionel Washington on a few times, and I know he's more the era right when Roch was a senior. I believe
Right.
he might have been a freshman, but that's before you. But was Lionel, I'm trying to figure out why you went to Tulane in the first place, and I know it's a great university, but what made you go there? Did Lionel have any role in that, maybe, as a guy you looked up to one day?
Well, obviously, yeah, it was him, as well as Mark, because, you know,
Mark, exactly, right?
Remember the recruiting time, I committed to University of Oklahoma on a Monday with Barry Switzer during that era. Dating myself, but
well, I work with Spencer Tillman every weekend. I know he was there because he probably been a junior at that point, maybe a senior.
And but I began to think, you know, when at Lutcher we did a lot of dropbacks and we threw the football. I didn't want to be viewed as just an option quarterback. And one of the hooks for me was when Mac said we're going to throw the football as well as run the option. And so well as in Oklahoma, there was 80% option.
Yeah, certainly.
And I didn't mind getting hit in football, but that was just too much.
Jamel Holloway, man.
Right, exactly. And so the fact that I was going to get an opportunity to throw the football a lot, and that appealed to me more so. And also the location. It's only an hour from where I'm from. My parents was able to, my mother was able to see me play. And obviously, you talk about the academic piece, that was a no-brainer there.
Big time.
Pun intended. So.
Pun intended, all right.
So, but, you know, yeah, so, and then I was going to play my freshman year, right? And so,
that was part of the thing. You had leverage. You're going to Oklahoma. I mean, that was the #1 team in the country at that time.
At that time, yes.
And so you had the leverage to say, hey, I need to play as a freshman. So.
And I wanted to be able to throw the football.
Yeah.
Right, a lot. Not
and you got
80,
to.
Not 80-20 run pass.
Right.
But 80-20, 80-40, I mean 80-30, 80-20 here at Tulane.
Yeah.
We did a lot of throwing with Mac Brown. So all those things appealed to me.
You stay in touch with Mac Brown?
We do.
Did you celebrate when Texas beat USC and Reggie Bush in that? I mean,
well,
that's your coach, you know. I mean,
it was a sense of pride that
right.
He had coached me and at one point in his career, and that I had part of him leaving from Tulane, going to North Carolina, then back to Texas. And so, yeah, it was a sense of joy to know that I've worked with him or played for him.
Well, in the 90s, I worked, you know, for Fox Sports Net South in Atlanta, and so we covered a lot of SEC and ACC games. So I did a lot of his games when he was the head coach of North Carolina, brought them to another level, and obviously he took them as far as they could go, and then he went to Texas, obviously won the national championship. But I want to get into your career professionally. I think people forget that you had a great Canadian Football League career and talk about that a little bit. I mean, what led you in that direction, and what were you able to do up there?
Well, I got drafted by the Chargers in the 7th round, 89 draft, and they thought I would be best as a wide receiver, and I thought differently.
You wanted to play quarterback.
And I was a quarterback at that time, and that's what I did all of my life. And I told them I need to rethink that thought. And so I came back here and had a contract to go up there to Canada. So I played 2 years in Calgary, Alberta, 2 years in Ottawa, Ontario, and then the USL tried to expand into the United States, and they had a team in Shreveport.
Shreveport. I want to talk about that. My friend Tim Brando, who I work with also every weekend with Spencer Tillman, he's a Shreveport native. He left ESPN because his wife hated being in Bristol, so they could go back to Shreveport where they're from. So what was Shreveport like?
Well, the town was nice. The game was new to folks, right? You had 12 players on the field at one time. Everybody running around. There's no illegal move shifting going on. That's the rules. It was new, so it's basically we introduced in the CFL to South Louisiana and the United States in general, because there were teams spread out all over in major cities of the United States.
Right.
And it didn't catch on, too long, enough, I should say, so they can sustain it. And so the team folded in '95, but I was able to be part of the inaugural year in '94.
Nice.
And
nice.
It was we was piecemealing it together.
Yeah.
Forrest Gregg was our head coach, and
Forrest Gregg.
Yes, sir.
Green Bay Packer legend.
So
ended up coaching SMU after the death penalty, right?
Bless his heart. So, but it was.
Bless his heart.
It was an amazing time.
That's what us Southerners say. Bless his heart.
It was an amazing time during that first year, but yes, that was a memory in time in terms of my career. And at that point, I was like, okay, I need to go get a real job now.
Well, how is the real world?
Well,
now you've been in it for 25, 30 years.
Well, the real world is nice. I was able to make the transition. That wasn't an issue for me, and I came out of that. Went back to Tulane, worked in different capacities, and here I am now as an education consultant with the state of Louisiana, managing a national career pathway program.
Seriously, congratulations! Yeah. Y'all take pride. I mean, I know I kind of touched on this earlier, but the Cotton Bowl win in particular. I mean, how big was that for this program? I mean, I just remember watching it and just feeling so good for everybody involved with the Tulane University, just the school in general, much less the football program.
Well, ironically, we had a pregame meeting, and his suite.
Suite? Roch suite?
In his suite.
Wait, in Dallas?
Yeah, in a hotel. We had a pregame meeting.
A meeting. I see.
Yeah, we had a pregame meeting.
That was that must have been mimosas and Bloody Marys.
It was a pregame meeting, Scott.
Right. Just a meeting. All right, that's right.
And
virgin
drinks. In that suite, we had a lot of former players during his time, and it was great to reminisce with them a lot. And I felt a sense of pride in being that I'm with these guys who basically laid the groundwork for where we are today. And so it was a joy for me to be amongst them. I hadn't known any of them other than him, other than Roch. Lionel Washington was there, and a few others.
I love it.
It was a great time.
It was a great guy you mentioned, man. I mean, some of my favorite guys. By the way, Louisiana Jones. I can't let go with this. That's your thing, Louisiana Jones. Obviously, the Heisman Trophy candidacy right there. I gotta love it. That's from the day he looked like a cross between Denzel. He looked like Denzel. Wow. How about Denzel? That's who he looked like right there. The Dome of Doom. You got to talk about that before I let you go.
Well, that took a whole day to to get.
And Indiana Jones was big at that time.
It was.
Yeah.
That was the clip. That was the marketing edge, and so
that's
it was
a great
fun.
shot with the whip, though.
It was fun.
I mean,
well,
the whip.
I tell you, I don't like that one. I like the other one.
They're both great. Whip it good.
But
I want those sweatpants, man.
Well, actually, those are game pants.
Those are those are your Tulane game pants. Okay.
Without the pads.
Okay.
But it was a great time, and I tell you, it was a moment where celebration of success going into my senior year.
Was that Tony Rice's year he won? I bet you,
so.
You must have been the runner-up.
I believe so. I wish. But I was mentioned. It'd be nice to be mentioned. But no, it was a great time that last year. We didn't finish the way we wanted to, but it ended up. And those 4 years at Tulane was a great experience for me, and it was a precursor to life in general.
Well, you're one of my favorites, man. You've done great things since you've been a player. You were a great player. I owe you a gift certificate from Shays de la Shays, which I will get to you.
Awesome.
I was at a funeral, so I couldn't get over there this weekend. So here's the Task shirt from our friend that passed away. Al Andrews started this company, but Task, that's a color I've never seen, and I like it. Terrence, awesome. I appreciate you. We're going to get you to sign. You're the Bobby Hebert. Like, you see the big signature Bobby there? You're the Bobby Hebert of the Tulane helmet. You see your name first right here. I'm going to throw it out there. Terrence Jones, he knows what he's doing. He signed this thing early and put it big right there, and I love it because everybody notices that, and they love it because when they see it, like guys that you play, I have Rodney Holman on this helmet. I mean, I got some guys on here.
Okay.
Roch Hontas is going to get on that one because when Roch started, I didn't have the helmet. I had him on the show for the first year. Didn't have it, but I'm going to put you on this baseball helmet too. Awesome. And Al Andrews also signed it in this color, so I know you can see it. So get on there, my man, and I appreciate you. One of the Tulane legends. When I say legends, this is what this show's about, man. I celebrate what's going on today, but I also love to bring back these guys and remind everybody how great they truly were, and then revisit them. And it's been a pleasure, and it's been a pleasure for me to get to know Terrence and Roch, since I started this show a few years back. And I want to say I didn't grow up watching Terrence because I'm a couple years older than him, but I watched him. I was in college when he was in college, and Roch Hontas, who's coming up next, is certainly one of those guys that I grew up watching. He came in 1976, about a decade before Terrence, and he had a great career. And we'll get to him next on Primetime Sports. Stay tuned.
Max Durbus Realtors has been providing commercial and industrial real estate services to its clients for nearly 100 years. Since 1934, Max Durbus has been locally owned and operated throughout the greater New Orleans area, including the North Shore, Hammond, and even the Mississippi Gulf Coast and beyond. We focus on your commercial real estate needs so you don't have to. More information is available at 504-733-4555. Inspired by the culture and spirit of New Orleans, the contemporary abstract and figurative work of Tony Mose and the urban expressionist art and jewelry of Tracy Mose are now on display and available at Esom Art Galleries. Esom Art Galleries are artist-owned and are located in Uptown New Orleans on Magazine Street and on Royal Street in the heart of the French Quarter. Esom Art Galleries, inspiration from the soul of New Orleans.
Hey, welcome to Primetime Sports. Once again, I'm very fired up about this show. I told you my next guest, I also had him on before, but it was 7.5 years ago. Right after I started in early 2016, I had Roch Hontas. Boy, I was having all my favorites from back in the day. I had Ricky Jackson on those early shows. We had Deuce McAllister. We were firing it away. Archie Manning and all them, but Roch Hontas was one of the ones I was very fired up to get. He followed that lineage. I remember when Steve Foley, when I was a kid, that was one of our legends. For me, there was Pistol Pete, there was Archie Manning, and Steve Foley. And then Roch Hontas came when I was getting more into junior high and then the high school, and he came in like Terrence Jones, started for 4 years. How about that? He came in Game 3. Tommy Hightower got hurt, a guy that came in with him as a freshman in '76. And then he never looked back. That was the Boston College game. Then he started the next game. And then he started 8 that year, 11 the next 3 years each. Back then, there was only 11 game schedules. That's right. So some of these numbers I'm giving you would even be bigger and better. Like when Terrence would be well over 10,000 yards if he had that extra game 4 more years. And the same goes for Roch Hontas. And by the way, just so you know, Roch Hontas senior year, they were rolling. They went 9-2. And Larry Smith, his head coach, that propelled them to go on to Arizona State. I believe that's where he went. But the bottom line is this: they had a really good team, and that was the impetus to some really good Tulane teams that beat LSU 3 out of 4 years, including that '79 season. But let me also say this: this man was second in the country in completion percentage his sophomore season. And how about this? 7th in the country in passing yards his senior year. 7th in the entire country. That's over 100 teams, y'all, and that is impressive. And here he is, Roch Hontas. Welcome back to the show. If I was an agent back when I was 14 years old, I would have represented you, man, after all that.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate the kind words.
No, I mean, you're one of my favorites, and I want to put something into perspective, Roch, because we're going to show a couple lists here. We're going to show the completion percentage back in 1977, second in the country. You had guys like Joe Montana on. This is actually this is the passing yard. Yeah, second. This is completion. You're second right there. All these names. I know my producer's going to give me a little heads up. There's Montana on the. Look at this. Montana ended up being a Super Bowl quarterback like 5 times, and here he is, way below Roch. Dan Marino's on these lists. All kind of great players. And then let's go to the passing yard, 7th in the country. That's your senior. This is even harder to read. But Mark Wilson was the great BYU quarterback. You had Marino's. Definitely on this one as well. Who else we got in there, Will? Art Schleister. I mean, come on. He didn't just gamble. He was one of the best quarterbacks ever. Mark Malone, Pittsburgh Steeler quarterback. We go on and on. John Forcade. There's your boy Steve Ensminger towards the bottom. That was LSU quarterback. And Oliver Luck, you might remember his son, Andrew. So I just mentioned some greats. And you're ahead of all of them in these categories. What does that make you think about?
Well, that's the first I've seen that list, to be honest with you. Taken in the context of a football season, you really lose track of all that.
I dug deep for this, man.
You must have.
Don't downplay it. I dug deep for these
You
stats.
must have.
You got to own it, man. You're phenomenal.
Well, again, during the season, of course, you have no knowledge at all. You rarely check anything, where you stand with different players.
Sure.
But every now and then this comes up. And as you said, there is a sense of pride to be even mentioned in the name of some of these Super Bowl quarterbacks who played in the NFL for years. And I think it really a testament is to how we were coached up in 1979. We really weren't that good individually, but as a team, and the coaching staff coached us up. And I think it's really a testament to that more than anything.
You grew up in Canton, Ohio, right?
Yes.
It's kind of ironic because last night I met a woman in my parking garage that she's C.J. McCollum's mom. I mean, and he's the basketball player for the Pels, and I'm just like, and she parks next to me, and I never knew that until last night. And I said, "Where are you from?" Canton, Ohio. Oh. And then I said, wait, my guest tomorrow, I believe, is from Canton. So That's when I started doing some research last night. And I'm like, He's from Canton.
Yes, he is.
I mean, you grew up in the Hall of Fame area. I mean, what is that like?
Well, again, at the time, I believe the Hall of Fame opened in 1961, 62. I was a little boy. I certainly don't remember it. But my older brothers remember going out on the field. These Hall of Famers back then, Bronco Nagurski and all these players from way back. They were part of that initial class. Again, I think that was 62 or somewhere, give or take a year or so. And they would walk around the stadium, which happened to be my home football stadium, my home high school stadium, which is currently where they play the Hall of Fame game.
The Hall of Fame game, right. And the Saints
a couple
played
weeks
it a few
ago.
Years ago, right.
Correct. That's Fawcett Stadium in Canton, Ohio. Right adjacent to that is the Hall of Fame. And these old timers would come on the field, and my older brothers you shake hands with them, and they talk and move around.
Yeah.
And it was really, you take it for granted. You say, well, doesn't everybody have a Hall of Fame in their backyard? And the answer is no, they don't. And so it really is a sense of pride as a Cantonian, and certainly if you've ever been back there, you got to get back there for Hall of Fame weekend.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
It is a fabulous weekend, and the civic leaders of Canton do a fabulous job in really promoting the city and really exposing the whole country to what it's like to be around
It's phenomenal.
Canton.
You say that, but I had to laugh because I thought growing up in New Orleans, my first job was out of college, was out of state, and I thought the entire country celebrated Mardi Gras. Like, hey, I didn't show up to work on Mardi Gras Day on Capitol Hill. I was in the Senate, and they're like, and working for Louisiana Center, no less.
Yeah.
And they're like, dude, where are you? I said, wait.
It's Mardi Gras.
Anybody? I thought we were off. At high school, we got off for a full week, So they don't celebrate everywhere, just like they don't have Hall of Fames everywhere.
I learned that. I learned that.
Well, next question, obviously, is you came from there. Obviously, you were a celebrated quarterback. Why Tulane?
I came to Tulane primarily for the purpose of an education and to enhance my chances of getting into graduate school, in this case, medical school. Of all the schools that I looked at and of all the schools that I visited, and I thought a really solid, back then you could visit 6 schools.
Okay.
And I took 6 formal visits, and it kept coming back to Tulane. Now, I mentioned my older brother a little earlier. My older brother Mark was currently in med school. He was a first-year med student that year that I was being recruited. And I talked to some people from the med school, and it just seemed like this was the best opportunity.
You knew you were going to be a doctor?
Even then, yes.
Even then, in high school?
Yes, I did.
And so you had a plan?
I did.
And I think you could have been a great NFL quarterback. I truly do. You ever think about that?
No.
You're the same size as Drew Brees. I mean, you're the same size as Drew Brees.
As I said, my purpose of coming to school was to enhance my chances of getting into med school. If I was even able to play it down, that would have been terrific. I didn't have any. I wanted to play. I wanted to compete. I played a lot in high school, and I certainly wanted to compete. But it wasn't going to make or break my my self-esteem if I was not going to play one down at Tulane. It really wasn't. Circumstances occurred that allowed me to start playing very quickly, and then I played the rest of the 4 years. But even after my senior year, when the topic came up, it took me about 30 seconds to think about it. I said, well, that's not why I'm here in the first place.
That's interesting, because I had this discussion. The only other person I knew that had this, and he ended up playing the NFL, was Tommy Casanova, but he was like, I want to be a doctor, and he went and played. Obviously they have pictures of him being like Sports Illustrated, potentially the greatest player in LSU history. They said greatest player in the nation.
Sure.
And he didn't realize he even been drafted. Burt Jones had to tell him, hey, you got drafted first pick of the second round or something, and he ends up being a Pro Bowler every year. And he retired early, like Jim Brown and Barry Sanders, and kind of on top of his game, and went to med school, and like yourself is a doctor as well. But when you look back to those days, when I mention Tulane football to you and your playing career, what's the first memory comes to your mind?
Probably the win at Southern Miss my senior year.
Okay.
And that is a game that not a lot of people talk about.
Okay.
But I think that was one of the most important games of my career, because I think Southern Miss was the best team we played in 1979, and we played them on the road, and it was in the middle of the season, and it was a little bit of a make or break game for us.
Well, y'all finished 9-2 regular season. You remember your record at that time? You say make or break, so is it a situation that might have gone the other way if you had lost?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. But after that game, we had we beat Ole Miss. We beat LSU after that. And I think had we not, and we had to come from behind to beat Southern Miss, had we not.
You probably sent Charlie McClendon packing. I mean, now I think about it, because I know he wasn't there in '80.
Correct.
So you might have been the reason he went packing.
That was Larry Smith and Charlie McClendon's both their last years.
Well, McClendon's last forever, but Smith went on to a coaching career. I mean, but that's an interesting point. The Southern Miss game.
Yeah.
And even then, you beat Ole Miss and LSU.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
back to back.
Back to back.
And I think had we not had that kind of success, and again, we came from behind, we scored within the last minute or so of the game to beat Southern Miss. I thought they were the best team we played that year. And had we not, I don't know where the rest of the season would have gone, but I think that game was the catapult into finishing strong and finishing the season with wins over Ole Miss and LSU.
What I loved about going to Tulane games in the day, because I grew up here, I went to Tulane Stadium. And did y'all move? When did y'all move the dome?
Well, the first year the dome was 75.
Right.
Our first year was 76.
Y'all did, okay, because I know.
Excuse me. Tulane's first year was 75, the first year it opened.
But they moved up right when the Saints moved.
Yes,
Okay, because that's
right.
the first year they played the dome. I know.
That's right.
And I was at that Sugar Bowl when Alabama and Penn State. And that's my point. You were an independent then, and Penn State was an independent.
Yes.
Notre Dame still independent.
Yes.
But Pitt with Dan Marino, and they had Donnie Dorsett back in the day. Number one in the country for 1 year. I mean, you had some powerhouse independents, and I have some stats here. You're first of all the independents in '79 and all kind of stuff. I mean, these are some great quarterbacks I'm talking about. Fusina and Marino, and I could go on and on. Notre Dame had their share. So that's got to give you some source of pride, right?
It does. And when I was having this conversation not too long ago with a fella, and I was rattling off the names of the independent teams in 1979, all of which, with the exception, I think, of Notre Dame, are in conferences now. And they don't believe it.
Right.
No, that's not right. Oh, yes, it is. There were 28, 30 independent schools.
Yes, right.
Back in Tulane being one of them. As a consequence of that, and I think that's one of the great things about Tulane back then, as it is now, we played a national schedule.
Big time.
We played at different times: Miami, Boston College, Pitt, Army, Stanford. The Texas schools.
It's impressive. I've looked at this.
I'm just going up
Missouri
and down.
1 year. I mean, I've seen them
everywhere, and it both on the road and home. So that was one of the intriguing things. You talk about being recruited.
Right.
That was one of the intriguing things about it, is playing such a great national schedule back then.
The pride. I talked to Terrence about this, and I've seen you at events. You were at the Bobby Dodd as well. I have a picture from that, you and Terrence, and I think we might have showed it earlier. But it's y'all. Y'all was sitting right in front of me. I said, "Hey, turn around, guys." And I just clicked the smile on y'all. It was a nice picture because it's two legendary quarterbacks, in my opinion. It's just a picture of you two by yourselves in that shot. This is not the Bobby Dodd, but that's some of the alumni there. But my point is like, y'all take pride in this Tulane success they're having right now.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Terrence, because I just caught the last part of the previous segment. He not only is one of the great quarterbacks of all time at Tulane, if not the best, he is one of the greatest guys.
Isn't he?
I think I've ever met.
I truly believe that too.
You talk about a sense of pride. Just to call Terrence a friend, and to be able to say, to shake his hand and give him a big hug every time we see him. That's what's most meaningful to me about playing at Tulane, is you have guys like that, and he epitomizes that. And Terrence, as I said, is not only a great quarterback, but he is one of the truly great guys.
There's a couple more. That's your guy, Tommy Hightower, you came in with, who I sat next to at that event. And then Sean King.
Yeah.
The great Sean King.
Yeah.
That's a good little group of quarterbacks right there. Terrence, of course, on the left.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I love what you just said, though. I mean, that is beautiful.
Great guy. He's one of the great guys of all time.
Talk about your practice. What are you, orthopedic surgeon?
I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I work in Covington on the North Shore, and I've been over there 33 years. And
so you never left Louisiana?
No, I did not.
Tulane Med School?
Tulane Med School, and I did my training at Tulane under Ray Haddad and Mike Brunet.
Hey, Steve Foley, by the way, was one of my heroes growing up. I've mentioned Terrence. I mean, Pistol Pete. I was basketball first. Pistol Pete will always be the biggest hero for me when he played for the Jets. Steve Foley was a defensive back. He's still one of the top, if not the top, all-time Bronco interception leaders. I know he was a top for years, and I think he still is. But he was a quarterback when I was a kid at Tulane, and that's when I was a young kid, maybe like in the 7, 8, 9, 10 range, and he was the guy. Now, you kind of had to follow him. There might have been a couple in between. I'm not sure, but still. Steve Foley was a name. Do you know him well?
I do. Again, I'm proud to call him a friend as well.
Tremendous
I know his brothers. He has a brother, lives on the North Shore. I see him from time to time. You mentioned Steve's interception record. What's interesting, I think he's 40-some, if I'm not mistaken.
It is 40-something, yes.
And
it might be the same as his number, 43.
That may be unbreakable because
they don't
simply because you don't play.
No.
These players now, they don't have the longevity with the same team for so long.
Right.
So that record of Steve's, he played for I don't know how many years, 12, 13 years, that will probably not be broken. That's one
of those that could not be. I mean, he played cornerback and safety. I mean, remarkable career, as was yours, Roch. I'm glad you were able to come back. It's been 7.5 years. I do see you occasionally at functions, but when I tell you, man, I was probably in 6th grade when you started. And those years, I'm going to games all the time. I mean, I remember going to Tulane Stadium, the big stadium, before you played, but certainly when y'all were in the Dome, we were going out there causing trouble on Saturdays. But here you go, Task Performance. I know you know my man Al Andrews, who just passed away. A legend in my book as well.
Thank you.
He was a basketball legend at Tulane, but that's Task. I love these shirts and everybody that wears them.
Thank you.
And I want to get you on this because when you were on, we didn't have a Tulane helmet. And we had some balls, Saints balls you signed. And I hate to tell you, the one with Ricky Jackson and all those greats that you're on. Will Clark was on it. Yeah, let me get you right by Terrence. Hey, how about that? We could sneak in the green because the green signifies the post-COVID when I came back from COVID. But Roch, Hontas, everybody, if you don't know, you better ask somebody, as we say here in New Orleans. Google them up. Hey, don't look solely at the numbers because that was not a passing every down era like it is now. Just look at how he measured up to the greats. And I'm telling you, when you're second in the country in completion percentage, 7th in the country in passing yards, you're doing something. All right, and Tulane had that great year, his senior year, which catapulted his coach to move on. But how about this? Willie Fritz is not moving on. He's staying until he retires. So Tulane is no longer a stepping stone job, and Willie Fritz proved that. You got to be proud of that, right?
Absolutely. What the one word to describe stability.
Isn't that beautiful?
Here, Troy Dannon, Willie Fritz, here together all this time. Before they got here, I don't know if you know this, no Tulane team went to consecutive bowls with the same athletic director and head coach.
Never.
They went 3 straight years, and 4 out of 5, I believe.
I'm gonna dig deeper.
Happened.
They had the 2-10 season. I'm even counting that because it's a hurricane-induced thing. Yeah. But even with that, there hasn't been a coach with more than 35 games coached, because we had a 17-17 coach, and we had obviously Tommy Bowden 18-4. Right. But 35 games or more, he's got the highest winning percentage since the 50s, since the late 40s, really. So that tells you all you need to know. And you take out that 2-10 debacle because of the hurricane. We know they got displaced. I mean, it's off the charts good. So congrats. You're part of the Tulane family, a huge part of it.
Thank you.
And that's Roch Hontas, man. Roch Hontas and Terrence Jones, just legends. And I got another legend coming, and I cannot wait for this as well. And once again, she's the most recent I think I had on this show, but that was still 5 years ago out of the 3 guests today. Molly Kimball, you go to restaurants and you see Eat Fit, or you see these healthy options on menus. Back in the day, you go to Commander's Palace and places, you got to eat that rich food. You know, we like the rich food, but sometimes we got to back off. And I've been trying to back off as much as possible lately, and it's due to her. I'm going to tell you this, Molly Kimball is the reason that this is on in restaurants all over. Dickie Brennan's a close friend of mine. All of his restaurants are Molly Kimball influenced, and she's coming up next. She's with Ochsner. She works at Ochsner Fitness. She is Eat Fit NOLA. She's on WGNO on TV. I think that's hilarious. I love watching her and Brooke Lazier. We'll get into all that next right here on Primetime Sports. Hey, enough of all that football. Let's talk what really matters. How you eat and how you drink and how you live your life. And I had a guest 5 years ago that made an impression on me, and I started eating better. Really, truly, because of that. I started looking at the Eat Fit options on menus, and I still do every time I go out. I'll have 1 steak a month. I have 1 steak, and that's it. And that's partly because of my next guest. She didn't tell me to eat 1 steak, but I started doing research on what I put in my body. And Molly Kimball, who's been with Ochsner Fitness for 24 years and started Eat Fit NOLA about 10 years ago. And they're coming up on an anniversary. We had her on 5 years ago. It was my first ladies show. We had the late Carly McCord, Jen Hale, and Molly Kimball. One of my favorite all-time shows, so I knew I had to get her back. And here we are 5 years later. Molly Kimball, welcome back.
I know.
So
5
good to
years
see you.
like flew by.
Flew by. I used to see you occasionally I was living in River Ridge at the time, so I was going to Ochsner Fitness as much as possible, maybe as much pool time as workout time, but I was there.
You're still at the gym.
I'm at the gym, y'all. I'm working out over here. I'm working out on my tan. So how you been?
Good. How about you?
I'm fantastic, and I can't believe, since then I had 2 of those years were off because of COVID.
Right.
So I really just came back a year and a few months ago.
Yeah. Have you been back to the fitness center since COVID?
I have not.
Okay,
I have not.
you would not recognize it.
Really?
If I dropped you in there and like had you blindfolded, took it off, you wouldn't be.
It was
certain
impressive
where you are.
before, so what's different? I'm just curious.
Walls blown out. It is so open. It's so light. We put skylights in.
Oh, I gotta check this out.
The exit going out to the pools in a different place. The gym, the weight room floor is just completely open and just like. It is all new, so
This
beautiful.
is Elmwood, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's awesome because
So
I love that
beautiful,
place
yeah.
before. I lived right behind the Dome.
Yeah.
So it's not as easy for me. Like
Go
I
check
was
it
in
out.
River. I'm going to check it out.
Yeah.
Can I get a little tour?
Yes, yes. We will get you a pass. We'll
No,
get you
I
through
wanna go-
there.
yeah, I wanna check
But it's
that
one
out.
of those that if you haven't been, and even if you're like, oh, it was really nice before, wow, it's spectacular.
That's impressive
Yeah,
because, like I tell you, to me, that was one of the finest gyms I've been in. I mean, I've been around the country, and it was really vast then, so I can't wait to see
Yeah.
it. Let's talk about the Eat Fit because you're coming up on an anniversary. I want to hear all about it.
Yeah, so we're really kind of celebrating our 10 years the whole year of 2023.
Hey, that's how you
'Cause
celebrate
it was sort
birthdays.
Of, yeah, right, right.
Let's
It
do
was
it
sort of
all
a
year.
gradual onset as we started it, 10 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And so, yeah, 10 years ago when we started Eat Fit, so it's a nonprofit under the Oshner umbrella, and we work with restaurants, we work with food service spaces to incorporate, like you were saying, that Eat Fit seal on the menu. And when we started it, it was like, well, let's just see where this goes.
Yeah.
And I remember we were so excited that we had, our first official partner was Commander's Palace, and we had, 3
The
restaurants.
Brennan family, I love them.
We had our neighborhoods, and we had, 12. I remember when we got to 60 restaurants, I was like, y'all, we have 60
Isn't
restaurants.
that crazy?
We are pushing 600.
Well, I just saw Eat Fit Acadiana on that
Yes.
I was looking. I was looking at the
Yes.
screen and looking at Eat Fit NOLA, and I see you just have Eat Fit now. So it's
Right.
like it's just Eat Fit, and you have different areas now.
Exactly, but your cap that I brought you, your baseball cap's Eat Fit
Is
NOLA.
this for me to keep?
It's for you to keep. So we still
I know. I thought that
have-
was just a prop. All right, I love it.
We still have the regions. We have Eat Fit Acadiana, Eat Fit North Shore, Eat Fit BR in Baton Rouge. We did merge our Eat Fit Shreveport and Eat Fit Monroe's Eat Fit 318 up there.
318. I like that's funny. I like it.
So we have, because Monroe also spans Ruston and West
Ruston,
Monroe
yeah.
and all these things.
That whole I-20, right?
It's so cool though, because we have dietitians in each of those spaces doing what we've done here in New Orleans across the state, and having all these partners. I mean, it's restaurants, it's food trucks, we work with schools, we work with
So you
corner
got food
stores.
trucks.
Oh my
Food trucks
gosh.
is the wave right now. Obviously, it's been the wave for about a decade.
Do you know we had Eat Fit on the menus at Jazz Fest this year?
I have a shot of you
Yeah.
doing the Jazz Fest sign thing, and I loved it because
Yeah.
that tells me you've really, really gone to
Oh
another
my
level.
gosh. The moment, I think what you're talking about is on, yes, here we
There's that one, but there's also one of you with some signs.
Placing the seal on the menu board.
Yes.
Scott, that was like,
I think that's the one I'm talking about. Yeah, yeah.
it took like 10 minutes to place that first seal because it was such a big deal. I was like, this is happening. We're
It's a
doing Eat Fit
big
at Jazz
thing.
Fest. Yeah.
That was this year.
That was this year. So we had Eat Fit at Jazz Fest.
Congratulations.
We've had Eat Fit at French Quarter Fest for several
What
years.
is Eat Fit
also.
at Jazz Fest? Not crawfish, bro.
Yeah.
Crawfish Monica's out.
No, there's.
Do you have a diet crawfish Monica?
We have so many dishes that are so flavorful because the vendors there, they didn't create these dishes to be Eat Fit approved, but they are because they're using fresh ingredients, lean proteins, all these seasonings, flavors. And they're amazing. And we happen to have a lot of vegan dishes, vegetarian, but also like great tacos on corn tortillas, the full spectrum. The vendors are like, I've worked with them for years because when I wrote for the newspaper, I interviewed the vendors because there's only certain healthy things. How much can you talk about different things at Jazz Fest in different ways each year?
Sure.
So I got to know the vendors, and I would kind of feature their products in different ways each year. So I got their trust, and then as we partnered with Jazz Fest, we already kind of knew which ones were going to fit.
Yeah.
And so now to be able to kind of elevate and give that spotlight to the vendors is really cool.
Well, okay, just tell me some of the. I do eat one thing that's healthy at Jazz Fest, and it's what's her name? It's the yakamain.
Yes.
Is that
Miss Linda.
is that Eat Fit or no?
Well, I believe if it's the noodles, not as much. Yeah.
No, I don't want the noodles. I go for the broth only.
Okay.
I do a couple noodles, but
Yeah.
I don't like the stuff. No, the broth to me seems like
We
that would be.
haven't actually looked at just the broth, but at Bameen there is.
Bameen.
Oh my gosh.
Love that.
So they have the shrimp and the beef skewers, and you can get just the skewers. And then in Congo Square, Benishin wasn't there this year, which really made me sad. But Palmer's.
You said venison?
Benishin.
Venetian?
Venetian is an African restaurant.
Oh, okay, okay.
And they usually have their poulet fricassee and their jama jama, the spinach and that.
Oh my gosh, that sounds
but
good.
right next to them is Palmer's, and Palmer's has a fish dish, a chicken dish that you can get double veg, and then also right by them, I'm blanking on the name. Oh my gosh. Charlie Mendez is the owner, and I'm blanking on the name.
That's fine. You said Charlie Mendez's name. You go without that. I mean, the fresh ingredients is the key, though, right? I mean, that's what
yeah. The ingredients, the flavors, the herbs, the spices, and you know, there's and the red beans. We have Burks and Douglas as a red beans. It's a vegetarian dish that you can also get without the rice, and that makes it eat fit. I would have reviewed our Jazz Fest menu if I was thinking we were going to go down it.
You know what? We're gonna do this next. We're gonna bring you for Jazz Fest.
Yes,
tell us what we can
it.
eat right before the fest. I had a Jazz Fest show this year with just musicians. I've never done a just musician show. And it was great. I mean, guys like Roch and Doopsie, Paul Sanchez, who started Cowboy Mouth with Fred, and who's my other guy? Oh, Glenn David Andrews. But I love the food part of Jazz Fest to be great because we need to all eat better. I mean, listen, it took me a long time. When I moved back here, I was gone for almost 30 years, and I came back and I ate a po' boy every day at lunch. I gained 40 pounds, and I was like, golly. And I started to realize I was doing triathlons for 15 years before that, and I'm like, what has happened here? But I just love New Orleans food, and when you're not here, you get the substitute of it, which is never the real thing.
It's never the real thing.
So I just piled on, and now, but there are healthy New Orleans options. Like New Orleans food can be healthy.
Right.
You just gotta make an effort to do it.
And the thing is, a lot of times when you're looking at a menu, what we think might read as the healthier option, you know, you were saying steak earlier, your friends may be having that steak, and if you're thinking I'm gonna have just a salad, that feels like it's the better decision, but it may actually have more sugar, more salt, more calories, more saturated fats than maybe what that steak did. And so what we do is we sit down with the chefs, our team of dietitians is working with the chefs, the restaurant owners, and we look at the menu and we see what looks like it might fit our nutritional criteria. Our criteria is no white refined starches, very low added sugars, lower sodium, lower animal fats. Very, very strict criteria, but we talk about it in terms of food with the restaurants. We don't talk about it in terms of numbers. So we look at it, we see what looks like it might fit, and then they share their recipes with us. We have strict confidentiality. The recipes aren't shared outside of our team. They share the recipes with us, and our team can actually look and see what are the numbers in that. So we're not just saying that seems healthy, we're actually validating, and we have an app that's free. And so someone can download the Eat Fit app, they can see what restaurants are around them that has Eat Fit, or like with French Quarter Fest or Jazz Fest, you can look at the festival, or the Superdome for Saint season. And then you see all the dishes that are there, you can see the nutrition facts. So if someone is, I'm watching my carbs, or I want to make sure I get enough protein, or I'm watching my sugar or my salt, those numbers are all there on the app for you too.
Well, we have a new client, Esam Art Gallery, okay? So I've gotten to know Tracy and Tony Mose, who own it, and they paint, and I mean, they're artists. Both of them are artists. But they had an art show, and I met Brooke Lazier, who I told her, I don't know if she believed me, but I said, I watch you all the time. But I never saw with you. I tape all the local stuff. When you're gone for so long, you're New Orleans. I tape all the local news. I scroll through the commercials, and I watch them all. And she's like, but then when I knew I was going to have you on, I was going through the Instagram, Oshner Fitness, Eat Fit, yours, and I'm like, I'm seeing all this stuff with Brooke, and you guys are doing the show on WGNO, which is where she works. And I did a bunch of, none of these are actual pictures. I went through the videos and screenshot a bunch, and I think they're fabulous. And your show is so much fun and fabulous. Look at this. I mean, come on, that's the personality y'all have. And then I have a couple, and she's looking at you. These are fun, right? And tell me about you and her doing this, the genesis of it, and the popularity it's obviously grown to.
So I've been doing the segment on WGNO since 2009.
Wow.
Can you believe this? So since 2009.
Way before Eat Fit then. Okay.
Yeah, way before Eat Fit. What's really cool is I had actually, just like this.
Dancing. I love that.
Done a segment on there, I think about whatever the segment had been, on behalf of Oshner. Maybe it was about hydration before the Crescent City Classic or something, but showing up as a guest like how we do here. And then the news director called me in later that day, and I thought I had done something wrong.
Oh boy.
And I thought, oh no, like did I say something? You're replaying everything. When I get there, he said, hey, we want to hire you as a freelancer to do a weekly segment for WGNO. I was like, well, that's pretty cool. And what was neat is his former wife had been a dietitian. So he knew the value of a registered dietitian, speaking from that credentialed space, and said, hey, he was new to town at the time, watching the segment and said, let's do it. So through the years, there's been different anchors that I've done the segment with. And Brooke has been, in the time since she's been meteorologist, she and I have been doing them together, and she's a riot.
She is a riot. I knew that when I first met her.
I'm looking at these faces that you caught here.
I know. I mean, I paid. That's why I was up till the wee hours. There's Brooke on her, doing her own stories, and then Good Morning New Orleans, and that's a promotion she got not long ago. But the fact is, I got to ask you before I let you go, because Ochsner, you've seen. I mean, listen, I grew up in New Orleans. Ochsner was always there, but Ochsner has grown and grown and grown. Y'all done. And this is not for me just plugging you. I'm just amazed at what I'm seeing here. You bought the Andrews Institute, which is like James Andrews is the #1 sports doctor in the world ever. And then you open this thing in Baton Rouge. It's blowing me away. Yeah. I mean, my friend David Gaines works there, and I know, you have a new CEO, Mr. November, right? And you're doing incredible things. And I just want you to speculate on what happened when you first started 24 years ago to what you're seeing now.
How much time left? How much time do we have left?
We got about a minute and a half, so go give me your best. Right. I'm gonna get a T-shirt ready for you too while we're doing it. All right. Hey, this is from Task. So while you're talking, Task Performance.
Thank you.
And if you need another size, let me know.
So here's how it went down.
Yeah, tell me here.
I finished my internship, my dietetic internship, to be a dietitian. You go to college, you do your internship. I finished that internship on a Friday, and I started my job on a Monday. And there was no nutrition program in place at the fitness center at the time.
And dietitian is different than nutritionist, but they're credentialed. Yeah. But I just want to make that distinction. Yes. That's a thing you have to go through some stuff.
So there was nothing at the fitness center, and they said, we're so excited we have the expert here. And I thought, oh my gosh, because I had been in school the whole time. You always had someone you could turn to and ask. So starting that program from scratch, I remember the person who hired me, Ken Kostick. He had said, one day I hope that we have, 10 dietitians here, and I remember thinking, I hope I can just make this successful with just me. And so over the years, as it's grown, and we've hired another dietitian, and then we started Eat Fit, and we've had it expand, across the state.
Did you have this vision?
No, as I didn't think Eat Fit when we first hired. I thought, let me get myself a busy enough schedule so that I can keep a job here. Sure. And then as my client base grew, and we hired other dietitians, and then being able to kind of infuse that culture. And infuse, what's really cool is the dietitian profession is typically women. It's almost exclusively women. And so we have all these women that work together, seeing clients and doing the work that we have with Eat Fit across the state. And they are so loving and supportive to each other. It is probably the thing I am the most proud of. Because you've got people spread all over the state who are so tight and just so incredibly, they have each other's back on everything, and they know it. And they express that to each other, and to me, I'm like so proud of having created that environment.
I want to have you more quarterly, if you don't mind. I was just thinking Jazz Fest the next time, but this is important to me. I mean, I don't know how much time you got, but I like to have you back, because I feel like we've just barely touched the thing.
That.
I didn't even talk about the alcohol free for 40. That means you don't drink for 40 days. Plus, you can talk about how you can drink alcohol also and have it less.
Yeah.
A little healthier.
Let's come back as people are at the point where they would sign up for alcohol free for 40. We'll do it then.
Okay.
Get on the schedule.
But also I was thinking maybe before Christmas, because that's the time. Hey, you spotted your name on a ball here, and I have like 10 to 12 of these Tulane LSU balls. But I want to get you on. Post-COVID is the colors. It was all black ink before that. So we're gonna get you by the Cajun Cannon, because everybody sees that one.
Here.
Get you on your strategy, man. Bobby signs the ball big first, and that's that strategy. He gets. And then, hey, by the way, I got to thank you, Molly. This has been a blast.
I love it.
I love what y'all are doing at Ochsner Fitness, and all the sports fitness, and the training facility, the Saints and Pelicans, and you're doing fantastic work.
It's so much fun.
Keep it up.
Thank
Dickie
you.
Brennan raves about you, and he told me to tell you hello. Also, I want to thank, this is my intern, Sean Murphy's last show. I said, hey, I'm putting this show in your hands. I want you to do this show, and he did a fabulous job. I want to thank you, Sean. Great summer, and good luck for your future. Also, we know Will Hill. He does it all here. Stan, Jelpy, man, he helped me out with some good spots. I appreciate you, Stan. And Ron and Jim Dotson, Ron Yeager, they run the station. Of course, my guys, I couldn't do it without Alex and Logan in the back. I want to thank you all. Hey, by the way, we have some great shows. I got some former LSU quarterbacks coming. I got Herb Tyler, Jeff Wickersham, Josh Booty, and Rohan Davey. They're all coming in the next 2 weeks, and we're going to do a lot of Saints as well. So stay tuned right here on Primetime Sports.